So let me start by just giving you a bit of context on how this topic became so important to me. My name is Melanie, and I'm the founder and CEO of Panion. I have a background in anthropology and have also had a career as a photographer and documentary filmmaker. And I actually started Panion by mistake, as I wanted to create an easier way for people to build their social circles again from scratch, moving to a new place. Because I had recently moved to Sweden. I see many people are from Sweden here, which was actually named the #1 hardest country to make new friends in multiple years in a row. So I thought maybe I could figure out a solution. So Panion actually started off as a keyword searchable app that matches like-minded people and helps build relevant friendships and activities in people's areas. But during COVID, we actually decided to pivot, and we became a community management platform that enables community managers to foster more meaningful connections through relevant events and deeper insights in understanding into their communities. And then on a personal level, I've always been extremely sensitive to outside stimuli and started noticing the effects of my own screens on my mental health. And I realized that too much screen time was actually giving me anxiety, preventing me from sleeping. And I began comparing how I felt after a night on my phone versus a night out with friends at dinner or at a gathering. And I'm sure many of you can relate to this. So as I noticed this about myself, I suddenly was in the position of also building my own tech product, and I became more and more interested in how our design process can consciously consider our users' mental health, especially because our whole mission is trying to improve mental health by creating a sense of belonging and inclusion and to eradicate loneliness. So I felt it was important for our business and for myself to dig deeper into this. So as we all know, our world continues to digitize at an insanely rapid rate, but at the same time, the digital world is also draining us, and we can't seem to step away from it. At times, we confuse a sense of utility with a feeling of empowerment. While we have digital products and services that can do so many things at once, the question is, do they actually give us more control? So let's take media as a classic example. While social media is still relatively new, multiple studies have found strong links between heavy social media use and increased risk for depression, anxiety, loneliness, self-harm, and even suicidal thoughts. And as we can see here, there are a lot of reasons that social media and smartphone usage leads to these feelings. And I think maybe they don't lead to all of them for everyone, but there are definitely strong links there. So why are we so willing to give an exorbitant amount of time and energy to our products if they're making us feel so bad? And is it really because they are so useful? In fact, on average, we pick up our phones 58 times per day for a total of 3 hours and 15 minutes. And of course, we use our phones to do important tasks, but do we really do so 58 times per day? I don't think so. But a single pickup can actually set off a chain reaction because the products within our phones are actually so addictive that we might pick up our phone to do something that's useful, but then we get sucked in. And this is on purpose. We design products that way, and we even measure their success that way by what we call their stickiness. So as product designers and creators, what can we actually do about this? In order to understand this question, we need to dig deeper into the definition of mental health. Mental health is an internal state of well-being, and there are 3 areas that directly affect our state of well-being. We have the self. Do we like ourselves? How do we manage our emotions? We have others. Can we empathize with others? Do we have meaningful social connections? And then we have life in general. Can we cope with adverse life events? And do we feel part of a community? With mental health in mind, we can design products that empower us by helping us address these questions in a positive way. We can design products that enhance our natural capabilities without disrupting our natural rhythms, rather than hacking our experiences for the benefit of the product's producer. So empowerment, in a sense, means your technology gives you agency. It allows you to improve your life without an ulterior motive. like selling your data to a third party or exploiting your weaknesses. Your products are there when you need them, but they're not disruptive when you don't need them. So for us at Panion, we wanted to create a tool that helps you meet new people when you're feeling socially disconnected. We were purposely focused on building a useful addition to your social life that helps you create more in-person connections away from your screen. But then COVID hit, and then we also came to realize that virtual connections were, in fact, also positively contributing to mental health if they were formed with the purpose of supporting, sharing, and connecting in a meaningful way. So through our research, we found that this often occurred within the context of a shared purpose or a common experience. So we pivoted our product to create a community engagement platform that encourages more meaningful connections within a globalized network. So I think we can all agree that part of the driver behind creating addictive, disempowering products is that people are making money off of our addictive behaviors. And we have come to define the success of our digital products by metrics that further promote addiction and mentally unhealthy behaviors. Therefore, investors are often deciding which products to invest in based on these metrics, based on metrics that demonstrate these behaviors, because they offer more potential for exponential growth in revenue. So here are some of the questions we get asked by investors on a regular basis. As a startup, we are constantly concerned about our traction KPIs because this is usually the first thing investors ask us about. Investors rarely ask questions like, how do your customers feel after using your product? How genuine are the interactions between your users? Help me understand the importance of advertising without using direct advertising. When we try to align our product with the metric requirements that were imposed on us, we found that it really skewed our motivation. We were trying to improve superficial numbers rather than really focusing on the problem that we wanted to solve in the first place. So I began to wonder if we needed to conform to these standard practices of measuring our traction the traditional way, when our goals were to improve people's lives and not disrupt them further. So we are taking some steps in our own company to try to build our product more consciously. For example, we are consciously measuring our impact. We're asking our users how they feel when they use our product. We are being transparent in our branding about what we believe in. We are defining our own KPIs that more align with our mission. And we are teaming up with investors and partners who get behind that mission and understand what we're trying to achieve. And we are trying to re-educate investors whenever possible about the choices we are making and why. I think as a company, we could be way better at not getting so caught up in the numbers, and we should constantly be sitting down with our team to reevaluate the ways in which we are measuring and defining our success. I think this is very important to be doing on a regular basis. So I've come up with a list of questions that I think we can start asking ourselves in order to rethink how we design digital products. For one, how are users' roles viewed in the life cycle of the product? Does the value of the product require users' resources, like their attention or their data? Are they benefiting from the product with a perceived value? Who owns this data and how can they control it? How are you driving engagement? Are you manipulating human psychology to hook people on a product? What are the ethical standards? What are your ethical standards? You need to start by defining those as a company and as a product team. Who profits from the content created on your platform? Both the business and the customer should in some way gain value. Do your business models depend on an addictive behavior or increased engagement? And do you monetize by offering additional tools to achieve a more enhanced goal? What ethical standards do we have for what we show someone based on their preferences and behaviors, particularly, say, in an algorithm? And how can our design encourage balance and well-being? How do we make sure our products are part of our users' lives, but not the center of their lives? So in conclusion, I believe we need to start shifting the way that we design technology in order to further empower our users while maintaining a healthy equilibrium between utility and agency. So I hope that as fellow designers and product creators, we can collectively do that together going forward. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences and questions about this issue. Thank you. So feel free to post any questions that you have in the chat, and we can discuss them going forward. So interesting, trying to push your own KPIs. Tell us more. So I think there are a lot of traditional KPIs like monthly active users, daily active users, and defining that alone. Is that when someone opens your product? Is that when someone actually engages in some way? And what kind of engagement does that look like? So we recently sat down and thought, okay, we want to have a KPI that really shows us that our product is impacting people. And at first we were just counting daily active users or monthly active users as someone who launched the app for 30 seconds. But that didn't really tell us much. Were they engaging? Were they actually having a meaningful experience inside the app? So we started to dig deeper, and we came up with a list of different activities or actions that could be taken inside the app that would really show us that they were gaining meaning or that they were gaining value from the experience itself. For example, exchanging a message with somebody, or attending an event or an online experience. So we decided to redefine how we were what we would count as a daily active user, and we knew that would reduce the numbers drastically and maybe not look so good for investors, but at the same time it would help us really understand how many people are really engaged and gaining value, so that we could work towards improving that. How would you see the effects on commercial success of ethical designs that essentially take away addictive elements? Is this more, how can you design something ethical and non-addictive but still be commercially successful with this? Yeah. So I think I think we're in a new era. I think that people want authenticity, people want transparency. And I think if you can build your brand and you can build your product in a way where you're very transparent about their needs and what you're offering, I think people will come, and I think people will engage because of that experience you're giving them, rather than tricking them into thinking that they need your product. So I think it's more looking at how do we create an experience that people find value in and that adds to their lives, rather than psychologically manipulating them into thinking they need something that maybe they don't. And I think that's a tricky balance that we're all going to have to find. Of course, with advertising, there's always an element of psychology. I don't know, I never necessarily call it trickery, but we need to find that balance. And I think that balance is very subjective based on your own ethical standards and what you feel is the right balance for your company. How are your investors reacting to your KPIs? I've actually found that once I explain the mission and how we're redefining our KPIs, most investors are pretty okay with it. I think it depends what kinds of investors you're choosing. We're looking a lot in the impact space, and I think the personality of the investors that we have and that we're trying to meet are people that really, they do care that you're about the problem that we're solving. So I think that they probably wouldn't admit that they would just care about some numbers that don't really have any meaning or are not tied to our value. But I definitely use it as a way to weed out investors that I don't think are the right fit for us. So if someone's we're quite early stage. So if someone is very, very focused on traction and numbers and less on understanding the depth of what we're building, our vision, our future plans, who our team is, I think that alone tells me that maybe that's not the right investor for us, because of course, numbers are part of it, but for us, it's so much more. How big have your test groups been to come up with a list of essential app functionalities? How do you find focus groups? So we are very UX research heavy. We have 3 people on our team, 3 out of 10 that are literally just testing, researching, questioning. It is really hard to find people to test with, and we've all had to reach out to our networks. We've been part of quite a few accelerators, so they will post on our behalf. And then when we have new features, we can go back to those people who haven't seen those features and test with them. So we usually test, I'd say, for one feature, maybe 10 to 15 people max. And I think that what we find is also that it can vary a lot from culture to culture, from different age groups. I mean, it's really hard to find you have to really identify your personas. And so that's something we've been doing more and more over time, is like really figuring out who are the personas, who are our target users, and really testing with them. Because at the beginning, you're testing with whoever you can get. And then you start to kind of develop a process and realize, okay, the insight doesn't give us anything if they're not the persona that we're targeting. What is a KPI? I wonder if anyone else can answer that question. A KPI is a metric by which you're measuring the numbers by which you're measuring the activity inside of a tech project. So it could be measuring how many people are opening something. It could be how many people are clicking a button. You define the analytics that you want to use to measure what you consider successful or active, or any types of things you're measuring. It's basically the analytics behind. So they're key performance indicators. That's what it stands for. So you lean towards qualitative or quantitative methods for UX research? I would say we lean towards both. We definitely are tracking usage and tracking the numbers in terms of, if we have a new feature, we want to understand how many people are opening something, how many people are clicking on a button, all of this. But we are also really trying to understand the use cases and the stories and who the people are that we're reaching, and who the people are that are actually attracted to what we're building. So I think it's a combination of if we see 10 people do this, have the same behavior, of course that's going to tell us something. But also we look at the larger context, and if those 10 people who perform this same behavior have very different contexts or reasons for why that behavior is performed, we look deeper into that as well. So I think it's a combination of both. I think there was a question actually up higher. Is there a way to remodel stickiness of an app in terms of helpfulness instead of how addictive it is? I think this is basically about measuring your impact, and this is something that we've definitely been trying to understand and define more and more. So at the beginning, when we were more about one-on-one connections, we were looking into ways to ask a question over time, like how do you feel about your social life, or a question that just measures what your feelings are in regards to your social situation, and then checking that again, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 6 months, maybe in 1 year, to see if that changes, and comparing that to the usage of our app, to try to see if we've actually impacted them in some way. I mean, it's very hard with our product, I think, to concretely measure impact, and we're really exploring ways to be able to do that. I think now, with being a community management platform, it's a little bit easier, because I think each community actually measures their impact in a different way, and we can actually work with the community managers to understand in which ways they want to be measuring their impact. In some communities, it's more about how many people are attending an event, and in another, and how many people are engaging after that event. In another, it's how many people are actually just engaging in the conversations on a day-to-day basis. And we're actually using sentiment analysis, look at the tone of the conversations that people are having in the platform, and to gauge if the positivity or negativity of the way that they're speaking is going up or down based on different events that happen, so that we can really pinpoint for community managers, okay, when this thing happened in your community, actually everybody started feeling a bit more negative, and we can tell that in the speech. So I think there are quite a few ways to figure out how to measure impact, and I think impact definitely needs to be a metric that we care about more than just stickiness. If I haven't answered your question, let me know. But these are great questions. I think I've been through all of them so far. Hi, Lydia. In general, I honestly think that the conversation needs to start. I mean, I think that we're going to figure out a lot of these things together as we develop new products and as we see the effects of our mentally draining products on our lives. And we're already seeing that, it's already being discussed. But I think this needs to be a conversation that's ongoing amongst product creators, amongst designers, and that collectively we need to come up with a new set of rules and a new set of a new mindset on how to go forward with this, with these new priorities in mind. Do I have any last questions? Okay, well, thank you guys for joining, and good luck. I see there are a lot of founders here, so good luck going forward with considering some of the things we discussed today in building your products. And enjoy the rest of Upstart. Have a great day.